We back.
Wu-Tang Clan. Oh, sorry, wrong show. Wrong show. What's going on, everybody?
Man, hopefully y'all are doing well. Hopefully your holidays has been going well. You had a Merry Christmas or whatever it is you celebrate. You know?
That's it. And I think pretty much everybody celebrates the New Year, so we're coming up on that.
We are.
We're recording this in that little lull between the two. It's always a weird time.
It is a weird time, right? It feels like Christmas should, like that should happen, and then immediately it should be like New Year.
Yeah, but it's not. There's that little time period in there. However, if you're on the video, something very special to show you guys here. I am wearing the brand new Superhero Homies T-shirt. This is exactly what you're gonna be able to order from our merch store when we get ready to debut that. We are, as you can see, we are sampling all the products and everything to make sure that everything is going to be the best quality, because we could not lay our homie heads down at night and get any sleep if we thought we were going to give you guys something inferior. So we're working on that, and as soon as that's ready. But I think it's safe to say that the T-shirt is on lock. We got a bunch of other little items, going to be like some hoodies, some cups, things like that you're going to be able to get. So we're working on it, but got to say, so far, I'm loving the shirt.
The shirt looks amazing. They feel amazing. And you guys get to now go out here and show people your homie support. Listen, I know a bunch of people out there that love to wear these red hats. And, hey, they do them. Now you get to do the same thing, but way cooler with the Superhero Homie T-shirts. And like Caleb said, hoodies are on the way, as well as a bunch of other merchandise. I'm still trying to get the condom situation cleared up with the homie committee. They're giving us a lot of litigation and red tape to go through to get those out, but
there's a legal aspect.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And I am the red tape, by the way. I'm opposed.
And it's I don't understand why.
I think I'm gonna have my contract amended specifically to state that, during my tenure, there will be no Superhero Homie condoms sold.
I'm just saying, when you're in the bond, and we've all been there, right? And you get that call, that text, that what you doing text, you know what that means. They know what that means. You on the way, fuck, I got to go by a gas station. I ain't got nothing on me. You go by the gas station, and just imagine this, right? You see the normals on there, but then you also see Superhero Homies. Oh, shit.
Now, I will admit, if I were in this exact predicament, then I would obviously pick the homie condom.
All right.
I will acquiesce.
I rest my case.
I think it's going to need to be more convincing than that.
Damn. All right. I'll try again.
You did mention the hats, though, and we are, in fact, working on the hats. The hats are going to take a little bit of time, though. This exact design cannot go on the hats. Mm-hmm. And have it actually look good, because if you're going to do a trucker hat, a snapback, anything like that, most of that stuff, if it's going to look good, it's embroidered and not screen printed.
Right.
So that being said, we've got to fit the logo to where into the parameters where it can be embroidered. So
yeah, and there is I'll send you the link to it, but there is like the different dimensions for the logo. I have like the typical square, and then there's the more rectangular one as well.
Yeah, you have to send me all that, because I just ripped this shit off of whatever, probably Blueberry or whatever.
Oh yeah. So I'll send you those, and hell yeah, best $25 I spent.
Right, and this has actually been through the wash too.
Oh,
you
nice.
can see the logo is still.
It's still fresh.
It's crisp, yeah. So.
Hell yeah. Homies, definitely keep your eye out for that, for the merch store opening, so you guys can get your Superhero Homie swag. But speaking of keeping your eyes out and clicking links and whatnot, be sure also to click the link in the show notes to go ahead and get your voting done for the 2024 Homies Awards. It is coming up very soon. So voting is open now, and once again, the link to the voting survey will be in the show notes for this very episode. So definitely be sure to check that out.
If you guys missed it, Disney has decided that they specifically hate us again this year, and they have been releasing an episode of What If every day during the voting period. So What If season 3 is in there.
It is in there.
As one of the categories. So, we won't be mad if you want to give your opinion on that based on like however many episodes you've watched or none. That's fine. It's Disney's fault. So
they do this every year now.
Yeah, and they hate us. Well, What If is done. This is the last season. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So they'll do something. They'll do something else.
They'll figure it out. They'll intentionally delay Daredevil Born Again from April all the way to.
See, don't speak that into the universe. Don't do that. Don't do
Man,
that.
there's enough delays that are breaking my heart as it is.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about how Robert Pattinson had signed on for Christopher Nolan's next film. And have you seen what it's supposed to be?
An adaptation of the Odyssey, right?
I know, man. That's going to be insane.
How long is that fucking movie going to be?
Like 5 hours. They're going to have to do like an intermission. Yeah, because either that or he's going to have to do like a part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And Nolan's never done anything like that before.
He really hasn't. And that's the thing. Even The Dark Knight wasn't set up to be like that trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, really, Oppenheimer probably could have been 2 movies.
It could have been, but what do you end part 1 of Oppenheimer?
On the bomb.
Yeah.
But then the problem is you got to get people to come back and watch part 2.
Yeah.
And part 2 would have just been all the drama and shit after. And a lot of people probably would have been like, nah, I think 2.5 hours of nuclear physics was good for me. Be like, yeah, but like we got this really cool scene at the end. Yeah.
You wonder what Nolan's adaptation of the Odyssey looks like.
Well, the thing is, I'm a huge fan of the movie Troy, the one that had
Brad Pitt, Eric Bana.
Yeah. Eric Bana's best role to me, probably.
Hey, he was the Hulk. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I had that in mind when I said that. Yeah. But Sean Bean is in the movie. He plays Odysseus.
Oh, yes, right.
In Troy. By the way, if you guys haven't seen the director's cut of that, it is vastly superior to the regular cut, I believe. Not that there's anything wrong with the regular cut. This is one of the instances where it's like The Martian, right? Like the theatrical cut is good, the director's cut's just better. So when I saw that movie, I became kind of obsessed with it for a while. I've probably seen the movie like 50 times, and I always wished that they would do a sequel and do the Odyssey, because that's how the Odyssey starts. It's Odysseus leaving Troy to go back home,
right?
Because he's like one of the few survivors, and it's his journey back to Greece. And I always wished that they had done like a Sean Bean led sequel and done the Odyssey. Obviously, they would have had to tweak some things because that movie was quite rooted in realism.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering, man. Like,
it was like the Odyssey is like straight up, magical nonsense from jump.
Absolutely. It's definitely the drunk uncle telling his version of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But that also leads me to wonder.
Keejum tell him what happened.
And that's exactly it. And then the story persists for, all this time.
Yeah.
You do wonder, though, again, what does a Christopher Nolan version of the Odyssey even look like? Like, how much of the fantastical elements would he even lean into,
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is we know he can do a wide range of that, right? Because if you look at, I would say that his most fantastical movie is probably Inception.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises definitely hit on that. Interstellar definitely hit on that. With Interstellar, though, I think they cut as close as they could. Like, they took the science and then they just took one step over that line into science fiction. They tried to stick to the science as much as they possibly could, and they just kind of, the movie just slightly edges you away from that.
Hate being edged.
Hate it. But then, Inception is just like full tilt. Like,
That's true.
There's hardly any science to that. It's just straight up, this is some fantastical, alternate reality where like this technology came about, and
the Prestige as well.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say that the Prestige is the same thing, right? Like the thing about the Prestige, is other than the machine, it's all legit, right?
That machine is a big goddamn part.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the MacGuffin, David Bowie and his machine. It's like, all right, well, we're going to tell this story about these two magicians. All right, cool, yeah. All right, but get this. David Bowie shows up like halfway through the movie and creates a big magical machine. All right, do go on. I'm very interested. Yeah.
Not to go ahead and segue us, but it is very much like how I imagined Alan Moore pitching Watchmen.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, so it's about superheroes who are aging out, and they're all just costume vigilantes, and then they're forced to retire, and then there's this conspiracy. Yes. By the way, there's also a giant blue guy who's a god, and but yeah, other than that, like it's all just they're like, wait a minute, go back to that last part about the.
Yeah, and the villain's got like a genetically mutated lynx.
Yeah. Named Bubastis. I've already thought of that.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. I started at Bubastis.
And then I built the story around that.
Yeah. He's not going to do anything.
No. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to obliterate him.
Yeah. The only thing he's going to do is get fucking dematerialized. He's going to get Beerus level deleted. Who the fuck is Beerus? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that. I'm a wizard. You haven't heard of this yet.
Yeah. But you will. It's coming.
Oh, shit. What the fuck? So with that being said, homies, one and all, welcome back to another very special episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and today I'm here once again with the greatest, the bestest, and still the ongoing champion of co-host. I'm referring to none other than the homie Caleb.
Me? Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course.
What's going on, everybody? We didn't actually tell you. We got caught up on that whole Odyssey thing. That whole lead-in was to say that the Batman 2 has been delayed.
Oh, yeah, we forgot.
Because we got off on that track because we said, that we were talking about Pattinson being cast in the Nolan movie, and did that mean Batman 2 got delayed? And you were like, nah. And then I was like, all right, well, I mean, I hope so too. And then, and then it came out that the Batman 2 has been delayed again. What, 2027?
2027.
We're going to have Secret Wars before we get this damn movie.
Yeah.
Do you think we get another season of Penguin before?
My theory is that's why it got delayed.
That they want to lead into it with Penguin season 2?
By they, the Discovery execs, and not Matt Reeves. I think that Matt Reeves probably had no intentions of doing a season 2 of Penguin in any kind of regard. But I think that once the WB execs saw that, okay, this show did really well for us, and what are we going to do for a season 2, and probably for what Matt Reeves had in mind for the Batman Part 2, it would not line up if they were to do something else with the Penguin in between then. And they said, okay, well, how about this? They probably made some kind of deal here where they said, okay, we're gonna do the Penguin season 2, but we'll give you whatever money you want for the Batman sequel.
I don't even want to voice this, but if Superman doesn't do well, by 2027, the Batman will be the only thing there is.
Yeah,
there will be no DCU. So
it is very likely that would be the case.
Yeah, that's terrifying, to be honest. So
yeah, that it could that the DCU could end before it begins.
I think it's going to do gangbusters though. I think Superman will. My only concern with that is like the trailer has all this hype, but the movie's 7 months away.
Yeah,
and you get into that mentality where it's like, all right, well, we got to keep them hyped. and that's when you start getting into that territory. I'm not saying James Gunn will let him do this, but that's where you're going to get in that territory where it's like, oh, this is the 7th Superman trailer. And they've given, 2/3 of the movie away in the trailers, and I don't want them to do that.
Me either.
So,
if I had to guess, I would say we maybe get another one for maybe the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl would be very smart,
Yeah.
But will WB pay for it? I think at a bare minimum, I think you got to get this thing on the screen in front of Brave New World.
Yeah. That's going to be tricky because Disney seems to have such a stronghold over theaters.
That's true.
So, I mean, that would be wise, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, if I were Disney, I would try to put, is it Thunderbolts that comes out after?
Yeah.
I would try to put Thunderbolts in
I'm sure they will.
Superman trailers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah, so we'll see. But that's not why we're here today.
That is not why we're here today. I mean, and don't worry. When we're in our mid 40s, we will review the Batman Part 2.
I'm damn near gonna have another Stormlight book before then. It's getting close. Actually, I won't. That's gonna be 2031.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, guys, but we are here for something that is out.
Yeah, safe to say.
Safe to say, this product is out, and that is The Watchmen, Chapter 2. This is, of course, the follow-up to The Watchmen Part 1, the animated movie that was released a few months ago, and Part 2 came out just a few weeks ago. And we are here now to wrap up the story. And obviously, if you guys are familiar with The Watchmen in any way, shape, or form, then you know how the story goes, you know the characters, you know the beats and what to expect. I think the point here of The Watchmen Parts 1 and 2 were to more faithfully adapt the source material, and putting it in 2 parts gives it more space and opportunity to kind of get everything that the source material has into these animated movies. And, with Part 1, which if you haven't heard that review, definitely go check it out.
Yep.
But with Part 1, kind of our takeaway was this definitely kicked up in the latter half of Part 1. And I think overall we both enjoyed Part 1. But the question that was still in the air is, what are they going to do to make sure that it justifies its existence? Because as it stands, Part 1 doesn't terribly deviate from the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie all that much. There are obviously a few differences between that live action movie, the animated movie Part 1, and then the book. But all in all, if you've seen or read one, you kind of know what happens in the other. Caleb, what are your thoughts and feelings about Watchmen Chapter 2? How do you feel it did?
So, I came in here about Chapter 1, and I was like, at the start of Chapter 1, I was like, do we need this? Mm-hmm. Because the movie's not that different from the book, and therefore the adaptation is not that different from the movie or the book. Mm-hmm. In the beginning. I will say, I love the Zack Snyder film, the opening of it.
Yeah.
The kind of montage they do there, I think that's really good. Mm-hmm. But as Part 1 went on, especially the Dr. Manhattan sequence, I thought was so much better than the movie. Mm-hmm. And I would even dare say that the Dr. Manhattan monologue sequence, all of that, I think the animated is my favorite version of it. Period. If you guys want to call sacrilege on that, that's fine. Whatever, I can take it. That's not my hottest take, folks. It doesn't even crack the top 10.
Yeah, you will have to fist fight Alan Moore, so hope you're ready for whatever comes with that.
That's okay. He's been out of spell slots, I'm sure. We gonna see.
We gonna see.
He starts casting some shit. I'm kicking him in the dick. I wasn't sure if he could. I was pretty sure he couldn't, but I wasn't going to fuck around and find out. Yeah, man. Part 2, I am not as enthused about it. there will be a contingent that loves that the original ending is there to adapt the book's ending much more precisely. There are certain things that are still, I think, the superior version in this. Like I think the Rorschach breakout scene, I think across the board in all of the iterations is great.
Yeah.
I did like the Rorschach scene with the therapist in this more in the animated. I think that's the best version of that. But I will say this. The Dr. Manhattan and Miss Jupiter on Mars scene, I thought the Zack Snyder version way better than he was here. I actually nodded off a bit during it in this one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know who the voice actress for her is, but I just didn't think she pulled it off that well.
Katie Sackhoff?
Is it her?
I think it is.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Katie. I love you. You fucked this up though. I didn't like it. I got your character on the Star Wars game that I play. Your likeness is in the game. I hope you get some money for that. Is it her? Oh God, I'm so.
Yeah, we looked at the casting for part 1.
I think we did.
And I feel confident that I remember seeing her name.
Please be somebody else. God damn it.
Is it her?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah. Looks that way.
Don't do it. Oh, yes, she is. Yeah. Well, listen, I love all your other work. You're amazing as Bo-Katan in Star Wars, but she didn't do it for me, and Dr. Manhattan, too, in that scene. I don't know. The Zack Snyder version, when I watched that and every subsequent watch of it, that shit hits me. When I read it in the book, it hits me. But here, it just didn't flow for me, man. I just didn't love it. And I think that's, to me, that's the most important scene in part 2.
Yeah, clearly it is a really important scene because without the power and impact of that scene, it's hard for you as a viewer to believe that Dr. Manhattan would be convinced to come back to Earth.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it here in the animated movie. It did feel a little bit paint by the numbers, that scene in particular, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that threw me off about the animated version, and this is maybe a small difference, but it seemed like with the reveal of her father being the comedian, 40-year spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It seemed that whereas Dr. Manhattan, if I remember correctly, he like straight up shows her that, whereas here it's like she puts all the context clues together.
Yeah, but like, why now? You know?
Yeah.
That there wasn't anything that happened.
Yeah. It wasn't anything that Dr. Manhattan did directly that would suddenly lead her to put it together.
And it just comes off as, oh, I just had this magical revelation because the story needs me to have it right here.
Yeah. I thought that was a weird choice. It was an odd decision to make. But I'm like, okay, you know, it's whatever. But yeah, and there were a few moments like that here in chapter 2. But on the whole, actually, I really, really enjoyed chapter 2 here a lot. I think that a lot of the dynamics that I was really looking for, they nailed really good for me here. The Night Owl and Rorschach dynamic, I think they did a really great job with.
The Night Owl and Laurie, I thought, was... They had way better chemistry here than they do in the Snyder film.
Yeah.
You also... you only get the one sex scene in the Snyder film.
That's true.
Yeah, they don't have the failed attempt. They don't have the abort.
Oh yeah, they don't have the failed attempt, do they?
Yeah, because when I was watching this, I was like, if they only do this one and not the one in Archie, I'm gonna be pissed. Yeah. Because that scene does play very well in the Snyder movie.
Yeah, I mean, granted, like the sex in Archie, in the book, that's like maybe 3 panels, and Zach was like, "Nah." Or clearly, this needs to be at least 18 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And they conveniently hit the flamethrower like at the climax.
That does happen in all 3 mediums of the story.
Well, here though, in the animated movie, like Night Owl must have been very quick because it's like. He picks her up and sets her right on the panel, and then I was like, "Dang, bro! Like that was a lot of buildup for that. How long you been waiting to bust that?" Dog,
he was right on the precipice.
Yeah. Right. Jeez.
God damn. I mean, hell, you know what? In a lot of ways, maybe it makes sense. He doesn't have the intellect of Dr. Manhattan, but his EQ is much higher. And then maybe whereas Dr. Manhattan can like physically please you any way that you want, Dan is the opposite. He's like, "Hey girl, you gonna get these 2.5 pumps."
And that's it. Every superhero's got to have a weakness.
That's true. You know? Yeah.
And his is just he's got to bust and then take a nap before he can fight crime.
Before got to get that nap in.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I heard Night Owl stopped a bank robbery earlier, so we got at least 2 hours to pull some shit off before we got to go back into hiding.
God. Oh man. It is interesting, right? Because their dynamic here between Laurie and Dan, it is very good here in the animated movie. The Rorschach and Night Owl stuff I also thought was really good here as well. Actually, I think pretty much all the Rorschach stuff works for me pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any Rorschach scene that's not great in all of the mediums.
Yeah,
it's just like he's just, when I was watching part 2, I started thinking about that. It's like he really is. Part of like the whole Batman mythos is like that he's supposed to be like incorruptible, and Rorschach is just the absolute embodiment of that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when like Ozymandias pulls the whole, deal in this, I can see Bruce Wayne being convinced like, that, okay, well, exposing this motherfucker is actually not for the greater good here. Bruce would still beat the shit out of him, though. Like, don't get it twisted.
The ass whooping would still happen.
Yeah. Bruce would still beat his ass, but I mean,
yeah.
If it was going to cause like global war, I don't think Bruce would expose him. Rorschach would have none of it, man. No. He's like, he has a very rigid sense of right and wrong, and if you're on the wrong side of that shit, God help you.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Manhattan. Closest thing they got.
Yeah. And in this case, Dr. Manhattan will, in fact, not help you.
No.
Oh, man. They did cut out the stuff with the psychiatrist that I noticed, with Rorschach's psychiatrist. I mean, we do see them sitting down, and they have, the discussion with the flash cards or the Rorschach cards or whatever.
Right.
But there's like a whole subplot that focuses on like the emotional decline of the psychiatrist. Dr. Malcolm Long is his name. And, we get to see more of like his home life and how it's suffering because of this case. And like, we get to see like how this shit affects his marriage, his relationship with his son. And, I guess they just didn't really have a place to put it here in this movie that wouldn't alter the pacing of it.
Yeah, because you do see him again.
You see him, I think, get a newspaper.
During the attack.
Yep.
Like right before the attack happens.
Yep. which is another thing that I loved how they portrayed the attack with this alien. In the movie does something very clever, right? Because I said in part one here, but you guys can see it here. But here is the absolute edition of Watchmen, and in between each and every chapter, you get like this in world type dialogue that is in between each issue. For example, the one I'm looking at here is this is like a Miranda report written on Rorschach after he was arrested, and they're talking about documents that they collected, right, or information that they have on this Walter Kovacs Rorschach. There's inserts or excerpts about Hollis Mason and the book that he wrote and whatnot. The interesting thing here is that like the stuff that happens here about the people making the giant monster, right? So you have the comic book writers, and you have like the scientists, and then you have the researchers, and all these people. All of that plays out in the background of the book. So like, unless you're a real careful reader, a lot of that shit you can just miss.
Right.
And I was very curious how are they going to do that in the movie, and they have to make it more obvious as to what's going on here in the movie, in the animated movie, because you can't hide shit between scenes like you can in the comic book.
Yeah. Zach was just like, nah, we're not doing none of that shit.
But man, when the creature when the creature emerges, I know we're skipping around here right now, but when the creature does finally emerge, they did a great job of just showing like how it caused so much destruction and how it fucked with people so much.
Yeah. The Dune 84 fucking weird vagina mouth creature.
Well, you got to think about it. Dune came out, like you said, in 84, all right? Watchmen came out in 85. Alan Moore was like, that is amazing.
Yeah, he's like, when I read the book, I never thought anything was going to look like that. But you know what?
Yeah, but if we pick back up where part one leaves off at, Rorschach has been set up, accused of killing Moloch, the reformed villain. And yeah, he tries to make an escape. He does his thing, but he gets taken down and arrested. And what's interesting here is that when Rorschach is arrested, this is something that is only specific to the book here. This right here is there's only two pieces of like documented writings from Rorschach that they have, because all the rest of it being in his journal.
Right.
He has two things that he wrote. He was taken from his mother when he was a child because she was very unfit to be a mother.
Right.
And,
to say the least.
To say the least. He was placed into like a group home type deal. And he was also very considered to be very mentally unstable, to say the least, as well. But there's two letters that he wrote when he was like a young teenager. And I only bring this up because I thought it was very interesting. It was very well placed. But when he was asked about his parents, he wrote this little essay that he was asked to do when he was a kid. And part of it, he talks about how even though he never met his dad, his mother was a prostitute, so his dad could have been a plethora of people. In Rorschach's mind, his dad was probably this war hero, because what little he does know about his potential dad, his mother said that his dad loved President Truman, whereas she did not like President Truman. And if you guys know anything about Rorschach's political affiliations, this is probably the groundwork for it.
Right.
But Rorschach, he admired the idea of his father, even though he never met the man. And just going off of what little information he had, he assumed that his dad probably went off to fight in the war and never came back. He assumes that his dad went out fighting Nazis, and that's why he never came back. This is the story that Rorschach is telling himself about his dad. That's more than likely not the case at all.
Right, yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is because he says something along the lines of, I like President Truman because my dad likes President Truman, and and he's he's such a good and upstanding president, and my dad was probably a great war hero. And then he says something very interesting that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, and I've read this book countless times, and I don't know if I just forgot this or just overlooked it. But Warshak says, I like President Truman the way my dad would have wanted me to. He dropped the atom bomb on Japan and saved millions of lives, because if he hadn't, there would have been a lot more people that would have been killed. I think it was a good thing to drop the atomic bomb on Japan. And that is such an interesting contrast to the Warshak that we get here throughout the remainder of the story.
Right.
So I just really like that there's that kind of contrast with Warshak there.
Right. I mean, it's very interesting that he. Well, we have to look at it. What's his first name?
Walter.
Yeah, Walter. I don't know why I couldn't pull that, but he it lines up with what he tells the therapist, right? Is that he closed his eyes, Walter closed his eyes, and Rorschach opened them. Mm-hmm. So Walter could compromise on that and see it, but Rorschach couldn't.
Good point. Very good point.
And I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Rorschach is a very fucked up individual.
He really is. He's kind of the definition, right, of like, this is not a hero.
Yes.
At all. Mm-hmm. But he also is a mirror to society. And he very much illuminates the fact that we all have values to a point.
Yep.
We're willing to compromise on them. It's a matter of where that point is. For him, there really is not one.
Yeah.
Like, he's just not willing to. And I think his character also illustrates that is not a hero, you know? Like, there's always exceptions to everything. Now, not to say that Ozymandias here makes the right call. He's very much a Thanos type character, right? It's like, well, there was other ways to go about this other than killing half of everyone.
Nah.
But it's like Ozymandias is kind of like the shitty detective that comes up with the concept of like, this is the suspect that did it. Mm-hmm. And then now it's like everything that they look at around the case is about not solving the murder or whatever, but trying to pin it on this person. Yeah. Because you just believe they did it. It's the same thing with Thanos, same way with Ozymandias here. They have come up with a solution to this grand problem that they think that nobody else possibly has a solution to, and now they're just fixated on that solution and how to make that solution work. And I mean, I get it. It's something you could totally see happening.
Yeah, but you think for somebody as smart as Ozymandias, why not think of a way to try to de-escalate things between America and Russia?
Right.
Or what is it that Russia wants, and how do you think you could best appease them without causing nuclear war? And maybe he had thought about those things, and maybe there was no real viable solution from his perspective.
Well, with Ozymandias, I think it ultimately comes down, right, to ego.
Yeah.
It's not, let's find a way to de-escalate this. It's, what's the solution that I myself can carry out?
Yeah.
How can I personally do this? Because the idea of, like, there probably were a lot better solutions that he could have done with a, like, coalition of people. But, like, a thing that he personally could have complete control over, this was probably about it.
Yeah.
And it's that just ego of, it's that, I mean, probably with him, narcissism, right?
Absolutely.
That, like, okay, same with Thanos. It's like, this is a burden I have to bear.
Right. I have to be I will be the one to carry this burden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting side note. Someone said this the other day, and like, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was like a fan casting for if they ever remade the Watchmen live action, and they said Michael Fassbender is Ozymandias. I think that's good.
That's tremendous. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
He would absolutely kill it. I think at this point because like when the Snyder film came out, I think a lot of people had never read the book, and so Adrian being the villain, like a lot of people didn't get it until the reveal.
Yeah.
Fassbender's a giveaway. He's a dead giveaway. But also, there's all these like I think the story is much more commonly known now. So
Right.
I think you just let it play out. I don't think you worry about like, oh, are they gonna figure it out? I think most people know.
Right.
Not that I think they'll do a live action of this again.
I don't think so.
Probably not in our generation.
No. I can see them doing like a mini series TV show, maybe.
I agree with Christopher Nolan. The Snyder version of this way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
If it comes out 10 years later, I think it makes $1 billion.
I think so too. And part of the reason why I think so is because it came around at like damn near the beginning of like the superhero explosion.
Right.
And I think that you give it 10 years, that the casual audience would be able to more commonly accept and understand a superhero deconstruction, because they would have seen so much in that 10-year span. You put the Watchmen there, which is kind of a deconstruction of the story, and I think that it would be a much more accepted and a much more beloved movie.
Kind of in the way that The Boys,
Yeah.
was so well received.
Yeah. Imagine if The Boys that came out the same time as like Daredevil season 1 or like Arrow. It probably wouldn't. It would have still been enjoyed, but probably not to the extent that it had been when it actually came out.
And this is the deconstruction of the superhero team.
Mm-hmm.
There was no superhero team yet. It wasn't a thing that had been introduced, on the big screen or even the small screen. So, I mean, the closest thing to it was fucking Smallville. Mm-hmm. And there's like 5 episodes. So, yeah, I mean, you can't deconstruct something that's not popular.
Yeah.
That people don't know about yet. It'd be like Cap throwing out Avengers Assemble when there's no Avengers yet.
Right.
Like, who the fuck are you yelling at?
What? Avengers what?
Yeah, who?
All right.
Is that just a thing he does? Like, I don't know. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, this comes out 10 years later. I think it does a lot better because in that short amount of time after the Avengers, we got the Justice League. We got the Justice League and then the Justice League.
Right.
We got Kick-Ass 2. I don't know that their team has a name.
I never read the comic books. I couldn't tell you.
But that was a thing. We got The Boys.
Yep.
Invincible.
Hell, Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. I mean, all these different things, and then not to mention we had the X-Men all through there.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that existed as far as a superhero team up.
Yeah.
Was the X-Men on the big screen at this point in time. And the X-Men is kind of always just thought of as like its own property.
Right.
Because it is.
True.
But
you mentioned something earlier about Rorschach and kind of about the way that he views himself. And I remember when the TV show came out in 2019, which I think is tremendous.
It is good. I need to give that a rewatch, actually, I think.
Yeah, now's the perfect time for it.
Yeah.
But I remember that there were people out there who didn't like certain aspects of it. And one of the things that some people didn't like was like the Rorschach cult people. And that was in 2019. I'm like, in 2024, surely you guys can understand a little bit more how this.
Yeah.
But the thing they didn't like about it was that they felt that it villainized Rorschach. And my thing is, those people got a hold of Rorschach's journal, and they took from that what they could. They extrapolated what information they could, and then they came up with this super fucked up code and way of thinking and living. The irony of it, I think, is lost on them as characters and on a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
Rorschach would hate that shit.
Yeah.
First,
Absolutely.
and secondly, like what Rorschach wrote in his journal, like besides that very last entry, it's not a manifesto. It's not a here's what to do. It's his own fucked up journal.
Yeah.
And so I think that was lost on a lot of people about Rorschach's way of thinking and how it was interpreted in the TV show. But
yeah, I mean this is clearly a thing that happens in real life, right? I mean, not to get too into this, but by all accounts, Jesus Christ was a cool guy and he believed in a lot of shit. And he did write a bunch of shit down that was like, this is how you should do it.
yeah.
And look what happened there, folks.
Yeah, there's still 8,000 different interpretations.
Yeah. Check out the Crusades. Google that.
Oh, my gosh. And it's like, how did we get there?
Yeah.
From what he said. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point.
So it can happen, you know?
Oh, for sure.
And so you can't let what happens in the wake of somebody kind of define them. At the end of the day, like, people are going to do what they want to do. And if they can point to a thing to convince other people to go along with them, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling, I'm not trying to say anything, but I have a feeling that the readers of the New Frontiersman might have been kind of gullible to some of this shit. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the New Frontiersman, like, it's not just right-wing propaganda. It's, imagine if Alex Jones' podcast was a newspaper.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, that's kind of what the New Frontiersman almost comes across as.
It is far out, yeah.
Yeah, it's out there.
Although the difference is that the New Frontiersman, at least in this fictional world, still exists.
God damn. Yeah, well,
Here we are.
yeah, when you're right, you're right. Oh man. Anywho, what do you think about the scene when we see Lori and Night Owl putting out the fire and helping the people in the apartment complex?
I thought it was really well done, man. I really like the animation style in both of these parts.
It's grown on me.
Yeah, I gotta say too that I liked it more here. Maybe my eyes are just more used to it, or maybe this one was like more refined, because they had some time to tweak it. Because I would imagine they probably made it all at once.
Yeah.
I did notice, oddly, like a lot of the blimps are gone.
A lot of the what?
The blimps. We talked about in part one that there's, why is all these fucking blimps?
Yeah, we saw the Gunga blimp like maybe 2, maybe 3 times in part 2, but that's it.
Yeah, but like that was just just barely.
Yeah.
But a lot of time when they were flying through the sky, there was like nothing up there, and I was like, "Where's all the blimps?"
We're having all the blimps. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like the scene where they put out the fire. I think in the Snyder movie, they didn't. Did they have that in the Snyder in the Ultimate Cut? But not the theatrical, right?
It was also in the theatrical.
It was, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, okay, so they put that in the theatrical. So the Hollis Mason death is not in the theatrical.
That's in the Ultimate.
That's in the Ultimate Cut. And didn't they just put an extra action scene in there of Night Owl and Laurie beating the bejesus out of the gang?
I'm pretty sure that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's just some shit Zack Snyder just came up with. I mean, it's a good scene.
Yeah, it is. I like it better here in the animated movie because you don't just see this old man get his house ran into and die. You see like what led to it.
Yeah.
And also in this movie, you get to see more of Dan's relationship with Hollis.
Yes.
And how that affects him.
It was much more impactful.
Yeah.
The Rorschach scene with his therapist, man, is so well done. It's kind of like Dr. Manhattan's monologue. It's the equivalent, I think, in this part.
Yeah.
Like I love it end to end. It's I was watching this. The homie Kay is not a fan of the Snyder movie. Mm-hmm. And that's all she's seen. She hasn't read the graphic novel.
Yeah.
She hasn't watched part 1. And she came in during that, and she was like, after about 2 minutes, she was like, I'm already more into this than I was the movie. And I was like, yeah, this is great, you know? I just loved how he, you know, we talked about it earlier, how he said, you know, Walter shut his eyes and then Rorschach opened them.
Yeah.
Loved that aspect of it. Seeing him, you know, the way he, like, Jigsaw killed the guy, you know, was great. So,
yeah.
And his therapist's reaction to all of it.
Oh, yeah. and that's like one of my favorite moments, actually. And unfortunately, we only get this in the comic book. Like, his whole interaction with Rorschach over like a course of a week or 2 weeks fucks him up tremendously.
Yeah. Right.
And it causes his marriage to deteriorate. And there's a moment there after Rorschach tells him about that story. He has like a dinner party that night. It's him and his wife and like another couple that they're friends with. They come over, and they bring it up. The other couple bring it up, and they go, "Hey, so like you're you know, we saw you in the paper. Like you're interviewing like this Rorschach maniac, right? So what's going on with him?" And she's like, "Well, you know, his name is Walter," and his wife was like, "You know, we don't have to talk about it here," because she doesn't want anything about that at this dinner party. And then there's like a moment of silence, and he goes, "Yeah, so Rorschach told me about this, about how he became, or Rorschach, how Walter became Rorschach. Yeah, it was this little girl who got kidnapped, and they go, oh, Rorschach found the guy and gave him 1-4 or whatever." And he goes, no, the little girl was dead, and Rorschach burned the guy dead." And then like there's like another awkward pause, and the wife, she's like fuming, and then the couple's like, "We forgot to check on the babysitter," and then they get up and leave. And it's incredible. And then the wife, she's had enough at that point, and she's like out of there. But it just really helped like shape the world that these people live in, and how like that should really fuck with him in particular.
It was creative how they cut it for time here, and they were like basically like after one day he quit. Mm-hmm. You know.
Like, fuck this shit, man.
yeah, I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah. Oh man. In every version, I love the I forget the guy's name, the little person who has his goons and comes up to Rorschach in the jail cell. It's always great.
You know, like the way that they played him here. I liked the scene, I think, a little more in the live action, in the Snyder movie.
It had more. It was more in depth.
Yeah.
Than that, yeah.
But it was still a great scene, you know. And I think the breakout scene as a whole, I think I maybe liked it more here. Mm. But there's not a bad version of it, you know.
Yeah, there's not. The Snyder cut is definitely more superhero-y when you see Night Owl and Laurie. You know,
they get off the ship and there's just a hallway of people for them to fight.
Oh yeah, they beat the shit out of all those people. Yeah, it's great.
I blame Superman Returns. You know, they spent like $200,000, or not $200,000, $200 million on that movie.
Oh, Superman Returns?
Yeah, when it came out in what, 06?
06, yeah.
And that's like unadjusted.
They spent that much money on that movie.
There ain't even an action scene in that fucking movie. Like
no, it's not. There's the scene in the trailer where he gets shot in the eye,
and they zoom in on the bullet. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, that movie, man. I'm still mad Bryan Singer left X-Men 3 to go make that.
Yeah. I think maybe he thought that he was going to end up with the job that James Gunn has right now. You know, like if he nailed it, that they were just going to like give him DC.
Yeah. Well, he didn't nail it.
Nail it. We'll never know.
It's crazy, man. You already had the keys to the X-Men. Like, if you were creative, there's a lot you could have done with that. You know?
Yeah, all you had to do was just like make it meandering until Disney came along.
Right.
You know?
And then you can write like a Star Wars trilogy.
Oh no. Oh no.
Shout out to old Simon Kinberg.
That's fucked up.
Oh, well. I'll tell you what else is fucked up. What happens in this story?
Hey man, I watched a good movie that was directed by fucking Greg Berlanti the other day. So,
what movie?
Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah. It came up directed by Greg Berlanti, and I just kind of lowered my expectations. I just grabbed the dial and was like, click, 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 click. So that probably helped the movie a lot. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't blown away by it, but I was entertained. You know, I wasn't like checking my watch to see when it was going to be over.
Okay, now, remind me, what was that movie about?
So, essentially, it's a Channing Tatum and ScarJo rom-com that they themed around the first moon mission.
Okay.
Well, the first successful one anyway.
Yeah.
It's around the space program.
Okay.
And Woody Harrelson is like this kind of like, kind of operative of the president's office, kind of the off the books, go out here and bully these people into doing what we say kind of person.
Yeah.
And the cast really carries it. Like the script isn't bad, but you can tell that the cast really carries it. Channing Tatum, as you know, doesn't do it for me.
He's not your cup of tea.
Typically not. I don't typically like hate him. Mm-hmm. I just feel like he does not have a lot of range. I feel like his range is kind of narrow.
I think the only thing I really ever loved him in, or maybe love is a strong word. The only thing I really enjoyed him in thoroughly, maybe Hateful Eight.
It'd be 21 Jump Street for me.
Yeah, that one too.
Hateful Eight, I actually enjoyed the first two acts. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized that the entire third act is just so that they can pull off that stupid ass cameo, I hate that entire movie now. Yeah. Which is awful because the first two acts are great.
Yeah.
But the third act is just complete fucking... It's Hideo Kojima level self-masturbatory nonsense.
I don't think it goes that far. All right.
Speaking of self-masturbatory nonsense, Alan Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Would never do that.
Well, Alan Moore does show a level of self-awareness every once in a while. He does show in this story here, like when we finish Tales of the Black Freighter, the kid, little Bernie, he goes, man, this shit's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
I actually really, this is the first time I've ever enjoyed Tales from the Black Freighter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When I read the graphic novel, it was okay, but I found myself just like, okay, let me get back to the story. And then in the ultimate cut, so there's a version that's like the director's cut that doesn't have Tales from the Black Freighter.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate cut includes it. And I think that's the only difference between those two cuts. Because there's like a theatrical, the director's cut, and then the ultimate that has Tales from the Black Freighter.
Yeah, you're right, because you can actually watch Tales of the Black Freighter by itself, like that animated.
Yeah, and it doesn't work by itself.
No.
To me. It only works when you can follow along with the story.
Right.
And the way it's being done. So,
and I mean, for better or for worse, the animated movie does take out the guesswork for Tales of the Black Freighter, because there's always been discourse as, okay, well, who does this represent? What exactly does this mean? I mean, you see it play out beat by beat for Ozymandias throughout the animated movie.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to follow. It does take the guesswork away. For some people may like that, some people may not. I mean, I'd always just theorized that it has to be about Ozzy,
Right.
So it didn't bother my enjoyment at all here in the animated version. I do think that for people who are first experiencing the Watchmen, that this version of Tales of the Black Freighter is probably the best.
Yeah.
If you're reading the graphic novel, at least if you're me, you will not get it your first read through.
No.
Because it's like I mean, like you and like a lot of other people, I was like, this is whatever. Can I get back to? It wasn't until subsequent readings where I really started to appreciate Tales of the Black Freighter.
Well, and I don't know that, like, the story doesn't need it, right? But it is a very cool thing to do creatively.
Yeah.
If you just want to show off your, like, chops as a writer and go, I'm going to bury this really fucking obscure but incredibly relevant thing in here. And I agree with you, man. I think it represents Ozymandias for sure, But I think it also kind of it kind of fits the overall theme of the whole story, right? It's like, what are you willing to do in your depravity if you have to?
Yeah.
You know? And what impact does that have on you afterwards?
Yeah.
Like, can you endure certain, because most people can endure just about anything, as far as like we just have that survival instinct built into who we are. Right. Like if it's not going to fucking physically kill you for the most part, most people can go through adversity. They can survive it. It's just built into who we are. But what this story examines is that you can't go back. You can't be who you were before you endured the trauma. You have to be able to process that shit and realize that you can't be the person you were before it, but you can try to be a new person that you are okay with being.
Yeah.
And Tales from the Black Freighter skips that last part entirely, and it's just straight up like this person who has been driven to absolute lunacy by the conditions they're surrounded with. And that person trying to return to any level of normalcy and the impact that it has,
Yeah. And I forget the main character's name, but in his quest to stop this impending doom from reaching his hometown and destroying his family, he himself becomes the horror that ends up destroying his family.
Yeah.
And then in his depravity, he looks down and he sees what he's done. He's murdered his wife, who was so looking forward to getting back to and saving, and he looks into his children's eyes and they're just terrified. And he goes to the Black Freighter and he realizes that they don't need to destroy Davidstown. They just need me.
Yeah.
And so does he save Davidstown? Technically, yeah. But look at what it cost him.
Yeah. Basically everything.
Yeah.
Definitely his humanity.
Oh, yeah.
And it just so happens, this is not a parallel that I would draw any other time, right? But it just so happens that I, have been binging Better Call Saul constantly.
Yeah.
And there's a Gustavo Fring parallel there,
Oh, wow.
with the revenge quest that he goes on over his brother.
Oh, yeah.
And look at all the shit that he ends up going through and how many people had to die and everything so that he could get his revenge.
Right.
And it ultimately is his undoing,
Yeah.
Like I said, I never would have put that together. I just so happened to be watching both of these things right now. I was like, hey, wait a minute,
Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, you are correct. Yeah, they being Lori and Dan, they do spring Rorschach out of jail. I've always loved Lori's reaction, after they see the people in the burning building and they have sex and they're like, well, what should we do next?
Let's go get Rorschach out of jail.
Yeah, and she's like, what?
Yeah, I thought we help some old ladies cross the street, and then we pound another one out.
Is there a different Rorschach? Like how you were Night Owl number 2 is still like a Rorschach number 2 or something?
Yeah.
Oh man. They go and they get Rorschach. We do get the cut here where they do go and we get to see more of the creation of the vagina monster.
Oh my god.
and what's going on here. Again, if you've only seen the Snyder movie, then you're not familiar with it because there is no vagina squid monster.
Yeah. Yeah. The only nod to it is that I think the program that he uses is called SQUID. It's like a not an anagram.
Acronym.
Acronym. Thank you for whatever. It doesn't actually tell you what the acronym is.
It doesn't, huh?
No.
That's kind of
If you ever meet Zack Snyder, I know that's going to be the first thing you ask him.
That's right. What's the acronym stand for in the Watchmen? He just comes up with it right then and there.
I mean, he probably does. Yeah. He probably does know off the top of his head. He's got to have been asked.
He had to have at this point. Dr. Manhattan comes to visit, and he takes Laurie to Mars so they can have a discussion. Also, what an asshole of him to forget that humans need air.
Yeah, and he does that in all three versions. It goes on for much longer here than it did in the Snyder movie. Mm-hmm. I was like, are you gonna,
It does go on for a while here. I do agree.
Because in the Snyder movie, she just like can't catch her breath, and then he's like, oh, and then he puts the bubble around. I think both of them in the Snyder one.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of standing in this little bubble talking. This is where this one lost me, man. I felt so disconnected from all their stuff on Mars, and like that's probably my favorite part of the first of the story. Right, is their discussion there, because I think it carries the most emotional weight of anything in the story, and I absolutely loved it in the Snyder movie. And here, I don't know, I just felt really disconnected from it. It was like when Dr. Manhattan is like trying to explain it here about how she's like a, what is it, thermodynamic miracle or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, don't like stick to your fucking physics job. Don't write Hallmark cards, bro, because this is like, it'd be like a computer trying to be romantic. And like I get it, right? Like that's what it kind of should be, but I don't know, man. It lacked any emotional weight of like for the animated here. Whereas when I read it and when I saw it in the Snyder movie, it really impacted me, and it got me to like feel for the character. And I think a lot of that comes down to, like we just talked about earlier, is in the Snyder movie, and I think also in the graphic novel, he kind of shows her the things that led up to this, and he gives her the pieces to put this all together. But in this version, she just kind of randomly puts together shit that she's known for 20 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, where's this coming from? And like, I think that just, once my brain is like, this is stupid, you've lost me. You know, I can't feel anything after that. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. My thing is like this, right? I think I like this scene a little bit more than you, but I think my reasoning is because I understand what it's supposed to be. And so I guess just by proxy of watching the Snyder movie and reading the graphic novel so many times, I still feel the things that I'm supposed to feel.
Right.
But it's like, there's something with the presentation and the delivery of the scene that does feel a little bit flat here in comparison to the other two versions, And I'm not really sure why that is. It's just, there are things that could have done to have it have a little bit more emotional impact. It's not the dialogue for me. I think maybe it's just the way that it's delivered or directed for this instance that it just doesn't really work for me the way it should. But, it's not terrible nonetheless, but.
No, I agree with you. Like, I know how it's supposed to play out. I actually think that hurt it worse for me. Yeah. Because, like, I'm sitting there prepared for him to drop this weight on her and, like, her to react to that. And we just never got there. For me, I just kind of watched it play out, and I was like, oh, okay. It just wasn't believable to me that she convinced him of fucking anything.
Yeah.
He just kind of, like, talked himself into it, I guess.
He kind of did. Well, she kind of talked herself into who her dad was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think also, too, the chemistry between, I can't remember the actress in...
I forget her name, yeah.
Yeah, in the Snyder movie. But the chemistry between her and the comedian was, like, really good, I think, in that. And here, I just never really got that, I don't like this version of the comedian as much. I don't think ultimately.
I mean, well, the version we got in the Snyder cut is,
right. It's Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man level good.
Yeah. It's hard to top that. I think is that Troy? No, Troy is Ozymandias, I think. But I agree. The comedian is better overall in the Snyder cut, but my goodness, that's a high fucking bar,
right?
Yeah,
I agree.
But yeah, Dr. Manhattan does eventually realize that, it took all these coincidences to get you, and he goes down like this whole diatribe basically of what it takes, what it took to get Lori, like all the things that could have happened, all the things that could have been differently, but so many little coincidences led to getting Lori. And she goes, well, you could say that about anybody. And Dr. Manhattan is essentially like, yeah, you're right. People are worth saving. They are worth fighting for. And that causes him to change his mind and go back to Earth. Yeah, so like the effectiveness of the scene here is varying depending on which medium you're watching it in.
The comedian is Rick D. Wasserman.
Oh, okay.
He was. I don't know that he's like the main character in a lot of things. He's in a lot of video games. He's got a lot of like random like secondary roles in things. Like he's in Black Ops 4 as like a random character. He voices a character in WoW.
Oh wow!
He was Weather Wizard in Justice League versus Teen Titans. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's just kind of
he's a working voice actor.
He voices several of Black Mass thugs in Arkham Knight. Yeah. He's just not like the main character in anything, really. It seems like.
So this is probably one of his bigger roles.
Yeah, he voiced some random characters in The Last of Us, but like nobody named. Yeah. Apparently, do you remember Kingdoms of Amalur, that game?
Yeah.
He apparently voiced like a ton of people in that because it's like a paragraph here. So, he did Clayface in Arkham City.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is like they threw this dude a bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't recommend, honestly.
See, I didn't think he was bad though.
I didn't think he was bad. It just, I feel like that's a role that doesn't have a lot of screen time in this, but it's so important to get them right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying that he did a bad job, and I'm not saying that comedian wasn't done well. I just don't think chemistry with voices is so much harder, I think, because a lot of times they don't even really know what the animators are going to do with it when they're recording in the booth. And a lot of times also, and we don't know either way here on this. We could probably find out, but a lot of times when they record the voice lines for these things, they're just in a booth or at home. A lot of times the other person's not even there.
Yeah. They're acting against themselves. Right.
So, it's hard to pull it off. Whereas like, obviously live action has the benefit of like you're standing across from the other person.
Right.
And if you guys have chemistry, then that's going to come through on the screen as long as the director knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, all good points. Yeah, sometimes the shit works, sometimes it don't.
Yep.
What can you say? Yeah, there was something else I had in mind that I want to say about the comedian stuff. It'll come to me when it comes to me.
I did think that, like, I liked Ozymandias spelling out, like, that was the day he realized that the shit just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
With comedian, burning the map.
Back at that Minutemen meeting they had.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the name of the team.
Yeah, not Minutemen.
It's like the World Savers or some lame ass name like that. The Crime Fighters.
Crime Busters.
The Crime Busters.
Yes.
Which, yeah. The Crime Busters.
Yeah, the Crime Busters, yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like a failed Vault product.
Right? Yeah, when are we going to roll out the Crime Busters? We think that they'll really hit the 18 to 30 demo.
You can hear them pitching it. Yeah.
Oh, man. I'll say this. I like this version of Ozymandias more than I like the Snyder version.
Agreed. You could tell in the Snyder version when they showed up to fight him, Zach was like, "We got to give him something."
Yeah.
Nah, not here. Yeah. They didn't lay a finger on him.
No, and like it's so effortless. It's almost funny.
Yeah.
You know. Even though like in the Snyder, it happens here too, but like in the Snyder version when Rorschach goes to try to fight Ozymandias and like he gets like fucking judo thrown and like his hat comes off. That shit just gets me every time.
He sticks him to the fucking table in this. I was like, dog, there's no need for all that.
All right? Fucking chill.
Yeah.
And then, Night Owl, he could have played defense a little bit more. He was like, my laser didn't work and I ain't about to punch this motherfucker. Rorschach can try all he likes, but ain't shit I'm going to do.
Yeah, he just kind of hangs out. Is in the movie, you at least, they kind of have a chance, like in the Snyder movie.
The two of them at the same time going at him. But yeah. We get the bullet catch, which is always fun.
It worked a lot better in this than the way over stylized way that Snyder did it, Yeah.
Well, he was like, "There's a fucking bullet catch in here."
Yeah. Yeah, I have to zoom in on this and do it in slow motion, and we got to do all the things.
So we get the scene where Rorschach and Ozzy they piece together. Okay, all of these shell corporations all lead back to Vite, and holy shit, the one piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit into anything is the one who's behind it all, Ozymandias. He had to have orchestrated his own hit on himself to make himself look like, he was a victim like everyone else, but that attempt just failed. But all these shell corporations, everything, all the people who were given cancer by Dr. Manhattan were all they were all employees of Nova Express at some point. And so they pieced together that the person behind this, it's definitely got to be him. And so they get together, they get an old Archie, and I guess Archie's got some good fuel mileage because
he just zipped over to Antarctica.
I always wonder. I never thought about this, but like because of Dr. Manhattan, they have like different modes of transportation, or at least different modes of energy. But Archie just looks like he takes gas.
Yeah.
Like he just takes good old-fashioned American diesel. Yeah,
I'm assuming that maybe he was around before or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But either way, he gets some good-ass gas mileage because, they got to Antarctica, and they got to assume that he got enough gas to get back.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they don't know that John's going to be there. Yeah. So...
Yeah, they don't know that.
So, like, he's got to be able to have enough fuel to go from New York to Antarctica.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have very many planes that can do that. We may not have a plane that can do that.
We may not, but we don't have an Archie either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I think, Sydney to L.A. is, like, the longest flight in the world. I think it's like 18 hours or something.
That is awful.
Hold on. Let's see.
That sounds terrible.
This is Googleable.
There's a very short list of things I want to do for 18 hours straight.
The longest commercial passenger flight ever. Let's see. That's ever taken place was from Ceylon to Australia, 32 hours, 9 minutes.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's a long-ass flight. Let's see. The current longest flight you can get is between New York and Singapore. It's 9,537 miles.
How much time is that?
Let's see. It's 18 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, dog. That's gonna be a no for me.
Yeah. And it's Jesus. Yeah, the only plane that does it is the A350, which it has a fuel capacity of 44,000 gallons.
Damn.
Yeah, and it can do up to a 19-hour flight.
So they barely make it there.
Yeah, I would not be comfortable with that shit.
No.
Like, if anything goes wrong,
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. No. That's gonna be a no for me.
So yeah, I think from New York to Antarctica, you could probably go on that, but that's like, that thing. I don't think Archie's got nowhere to put 44,000 gallons of fuel.
That's true. Archie ain't that big.
I don't know, man. Maybe Dr. Manhattan, like maybe he allowed Night Owl to can make some kind of like condensed super fuel or something.
I can see that too. Yeah.
He gets like 5,000 miles to the gallon.
I mean, him keep hitting that flamethrower button can't be helping.
Yeah, right.
That's got to
use up quite a bit.
Yeah.
You never actually see him like use that shit on anything.
I just thought about that. It's always accidental.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's like, what did you build this on here for?
Yeah, like the more that you read and watch the Watchmen, it's like I'm starting to think the main characters are Archie and Bubastis.
I want a goddamn Bubastis origin story graphic novel, please.
Oh shit. Rorschach, he does drop off his journal before he departs with Dan. And of course he puts it in the mailbox of his favorite newspaper, the New Frontiersman.
At least in the Snyder version, they actually pick it up. Yeah. In this version, man, it just sits there in the pile.
Yeah, and in this and in the comic book, it sits in a giant pile of shit, and then eventually they're like, "Oh, okay, well, maybe we'll check this thing out."
Yeah, maybe they'll get to it, maybe they won't.
What I did find hilarious, right, is so like in the graphic novel, when this is being played out, you gotta see it here. It's Rorschach's basically like his thought bubbles, so you get to see what he's writing down in his journal, and he's like, if you're reading this now, whether I'm alive or dead, you will know the truth. So he's saying like this is his last entry and things like that. And how it's he says return from mission seems unlikely, and the way that it plays out in the animated movie here, it sounds like he's saying that shit out loud, and I'm like, Dan is right there. Yeah. Dan be like, the fuck you say?
Yeah,
like I'm returning.
Yeah, I plan to come back. I don't know.
I don't know what you got in mind, but yeah.
Rorschach's right though, man. This is like. Other than if it had been John, this is like the worst person it could have been.
Yeah.
Because neither of them are a match for him physically or mentally. Yeah.
And you're fighting with his home turf. I mean, all the odds are stacked against him.
He could have Macaulay Culkin the fuck out of that place.
Right. He really could have.
And he really did. I mean, that's what Dr. Manhattan got zapped by.
Oh, yeah. He had to do that for Dr. Manhattan. Which I love that scene, and we'll get to that here shortly. They make it there to good old Manhattan, to Antarctica. They do skip the scene here where like Archie freezes up and crashes, and they have to walk. In the animated version, they were like Archie's the man, so they make it there.
Yeah, it happens in the Snyder movie though.
Yeah, they break down in the Snyder movie.
Yeah, because I remember they kick the soundtrack in when they start walking.
Oh yeah.
My brain took note of that.
I remember that Night Owl he bundles up and Rorschach just has that same old trench coat and hat freezing his balls off.
You know, the soundtrack of that movie, a lot of people don't like it. Yeah. But I think it's really on the nose. Like and not like too much. Mm-hmm. Like I really enjoyed the soundtrack for that movie.
Yeah, I do too. You know, like I think maybe everybody goes to Hallelujah, and maybe that maybe it's too much. I don't know.
No, I thought it was just right for that scene.
I never minded it.
He's been waiting a long time to bust that nut.
Man, yeah. See, Night Owl there is like a total Chad compared to Night Owl and everywhere else.
Yeah. This motherfucker's the king of Atlantis.
Yeah, and he's the king of Atlantis. Come on.
He didn't even call them. He was like, I got this shit.
Yeah.
I got it handled. If you don't understand that reference, the same actor plays Orm in the Aquaman movies.
Yes. And he's also a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
You know, he's
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the graphic novel, they do have to trek their way to Ozymandias, whereas in the animated movie, they just kind of land right outside the front door.
I mean, why add the extra time?
That's true.
You know?
So at this point, we have to remember that Ozymandias, he has essentially killed like all the shareholders, all the people who knew anything about the project, the whole fucking island that he owned, that he had the scientists and researchers and comic book writers, you know, working on this movie. He had all of them sign an NDA and then blew up the whole fucking island.
Yeah, when they were like, our boat will be here soon, I was like, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This motherfucker about to kill all of y'all.
Yeah, your boat will be here soon. Gilligan thought the same shit. You know?
Yeah, your boat of loose ends.
Yeah. It's just going to be tied up real fucking soon. Yeah, so...
Killed his own staff.
Man. And, you know, they do it in a bit more detail in the graphic novel, but they still get the point across in the animated version. They get there to Ozymandias, good old Night Owl and Rorschach. And when they do, he's just sitting down chilling. Like, I think he's eating dinner.
Yeah.
And and they try to sneak up on him, and yeah, just like in the animated movie, like Ozymandias glances in like the silverware that he has, the goldware that he has, and sees Rorschach behind him, and proceeds to beat the ever living shit.
That fucking Captain America throw of the dinner plate just got him right in the dome with it. Fuck that! I'd have been down after that too.
Right? Yeah. And, you know, like,
why you hit me like that?
You know you have to hit me that fucking hard.
That was weeks ago. I hit you tonight.
Oh yeah, and he gets the shit out of Night Owl here.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is that fucking Captain America discus throw with the dinner plate, man?
Bro, right in the fucking face.
Yeah, he hit somebody right on the brow of the nose. I'd fucking quit too.
Right.
I'd be like, all right, this motherfucker rolled a critical in his first, or did he? You know what? I'm not gonna know because there ain't gonna be a second hit. I'm down after that.
And you know, Rorschach's like, all right, let's try this again, Dan. And Dan's like, man, fuck all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, he stuck my hand to the table. It'll be fine. Like, well, I'm not fine.
I'm not fine.
So you do you.
Oh shit.
What you gonna do? I'm your only friend. You can't do shit.
You know, there is an interesting part here, right? So they after the kerfuffle, because I don't even know if you can call it a fight. I think for it to be a fight, it needs to be like, you know, some level of competition. There's really not here, because I mean, Ozymandias he's the fucking man. But eventually they're like, okay, fighting him may not be the solution. Let's try to use verbiage and see what we can do. Ozymandias does eventually tell them the whole scheme. So Dan was thinking his whole theory was whoever is behind this, Ozymandias, is trying to kickstart World War III. And it's actually quite the opposite.
Yeah.
He's not trying to start anything.
He's trying to end it before it happens.
Yeah. Now, what he does to get that accomplished...
Only mildly horrific.
He
killed less people than Thanos.
He did.
Way less.
Yeah, way less. Not even comparable, right? Yeah. Ozymandias does tell them the entire breakdown. And for somebody like Ozymandias, it makes perfect sense because for him, someone has to know. And it's like he said to them, like, oh, it's entirely too late. You can't stop me. Like, it's already happened.
Yeah, like, honestly, the first time you hear it, no matter what the medium is, that shit's cold as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like he goes on this long-ass mustache twirling monologue or whatever, and, he's just boasting about it. You can tell he's trying not to, but, like, he's just so proud of himself.
Yes.
And, like, finally, like, here's someone he can tell. And, they're like, you think we weren't going to stop you or whatever? He's like, stop me? I did it 35 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's horrific. One thing that I really appreciate is, in this animated movie, in the Watchmen TV show, and in Doomsday Clock, all of the depictions of the squid attack are just fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And I mean, they do a really great job here of just showcasing, like, the fucking atrocity that it is. Like, just the mass hysteria and confusion. And it's always been depicted as, like, the psychological damage that was inflicted as well as the physical, because there were people who survived it, but they were never the same again. And in this animated movie, you get to kind of see, like, how that takes place. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool in a horrific sense.
Yeah, in like this was really awful.
Right. Yeah, so New York is in fucking shambles because it's a bunch of dead folk.
Yeah, and a bunch of, like, kaiju goop.
Yeah, a bunch of kaiju goop, squid bits. I mean, listen, depending on how fast you are, I don't know how edible any of that is. But silver lining,
Yeah. Yeah, squid bits could be like a store brand Dick and Nips.
Yeah, but it's new Dick and Nips. Squid bits.
Yeah. Be like, Mom, can I get some Dick and Nips? I got them here at the store. We got squid bits at the house.
Dick and Nips, come to a store near you, folks. Keep your eyes open on that. We're passing that through litigation as well.
Yeah. It's under review.
That's right. Dr. Manhattan, he finally shows back up. He does mention that he thought that he would get here sooner, but something is fucking with his interference, so he can't perceive time the way that he normally does.
Right.
And that is, of course, because of Ozymandias. He is able to pick up on a trail of tachyons coming from Antarctica, and he's thinking, well, that's got to be the source. So he and Lori, they go there. And they encounter Ozymandias. Ozymandias came up with this entire scheme. Ozymandias figured out a way to get Dr. Manhattan off of Earth, and yet he still had a contingency for in case this motherfucker came back.
Yeah, which he does.
Which he does. So now we get this the confrontation between John and Adrian, and in all the mediums, I've always really loved this encounter.
Yeah, I think my favorite might be the Snyder movie because Dr. Manhattan, the way that they do it there, he's so imposing.
Yeah,
and they have him show anger.
Yeah,
and that doesn't fit him at all. But
Yeah.
but just for the sake of the scene, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It allows you to feel some worry for Adrian, at least on like you have an angry Dr. Manhattan in that version,
Yeah. Yeah, and they play with his size a lot.
Yeah.
In that version, like the more pissed off he gets, like he gets bigger.
Yeah.
Isn't he like huge as fuck at one point during this? Yeah. Oh yeah. In the movie, when he disassembles them, he pops up like the fucking Stay Puft Marshmallow Man outside. Yeah,
I think he does that in the Snyder Cut. That's in all versions of it.
Yeah.
Which that's also one of my favorite moments, right? So like you have Dr. Manhattan who's chasing Ozymandias, and there's like this fucking tachyon maze that Ozzy has built, and he uses poor fucking Bubastis, who had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And he uses Bubastis as like bait to lure Dr. Manhattan in. And Dr. Manhattan, with all his infinite knowledge, is like, the fuck is that thing?
Yeah. If I ever become obscenely rich, one of the signs will be that I will have a giant, possibly genetically modified cat.
You have to give it an absurd name.
Yeah.
Lithendor. It's gotta be something,
Yeah. Zabuk syrup.
Yeah. But he activates this particle accelerator machine, the same shit that obliterated John Osterman back in the 50s. And it obliterates both poor Bubastis and Dr. Manhattan. And, you have to wonder, right? This was probably all Ozymandias could do. But you have to wonder if he thought that would work.
Well, he actually comments, he's like, I wasn't sure if that was going to work. He's like, fuck yeah, I deleted him. All right, cool. And then I love how he just like pops right back. He's like, man, reassembling myself, that's like the first thing I had to learn.
Which makes fucking sense because it literally was the first thing he had to learn.
Yeah.
And I always loved that line. Like, you thought that shit would work, huh? Okay.
Sorry about your pet, though. I don't think he knows how to do it. Turns out Bubastis does know how. It's just after this, he fucking did it somewhere else.
Post-credit scene, yeah.
You just see them come back together. He's like, nah.
Oh, shit. And so now, we get the come down. I mean, it's the squad against Ozzy. And Ozzy's like, don't come a step closer. I have a remote control. And he does. And he turns on the TV, and they get to see the immediate kind of fallout from what's happened. And Ozzy does get the results that he wanted.
Yeah, this was such a great moment.
Yeah,
I love the line here in all the versions from Dr. Manhattan. What is it, Adrian? Another super weapon,
right? And he's like, kind of.
Yeah.
It's called television.
Yeah. Click. He's got his 1985 TV wall.
That's right. You can't be a supervillain and not have a TV wall.
That's true. Yeah. Well, the thing is, man, like, you can assemble a nicer TV wall than that right now for like under 10 grand.
That's true.
Back then, though.
Yeah, back in 85.
Yeah.
That was like the first time he was rich. Fuck Bubastis. He had a TV wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I need a deleted Alien Resurrection scene where Bubastis stumbles across all the failed attempts to create him.
There is a scene that is not in the comic book. It is in the animated movie and in the Snyder Cut. And I think, if nothing else, even for like a diehard Watchmen comic book fan, I wish the scene had been in the book. And that scene is after Ozymandias lays out like his whole plan and whatnot, and everything transpires, and Rorschach has his moment of, well, I'm going to do what I think is right, and he leaves. We all know what happens. Dr. Manhattan goes after him, tells him to stop. Rorschach, he stands 10 toes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
He ain't budging.
Can't whoop my ass.
Dr. Manhattan could, in fact, whoop his ass. But I've always loved the line, which is this line is in all versions. What's one more body amongst the Foundation?
Yeah, and it's delivered perfectly.
Yeah,
in all the versions.
Yes. Oh, and you see Rorschach say, "Do it," and then he takes the mask off and says it again, and Dr. Manhattan obliges. The scene I'm referring to that is not in the graphic novel is Night Owl is not there to see the death of his friend.
Yeah, and I thought that they were going to go that way in this too because it seems to be so faithful to the comic. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that they didn't.
Yeah.
I will say it works the best in the Snyder movie.
I guess the reason I think it works better here for me, and the difference is Laurie. Mm-hmm. Like in the animated movie, like she's there to comfort him. In the Snyder cut, it's just Night Owl who's out there.
Yeah, she's still inside.
Yeah, and then we have to see Night Owl go back in and just continue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just meant like I think the actual like reaction, the immediate reaction to the death, I think plays better in the movie.
Yeah,
I will say it's paced better here.
Yeah,
the pacing of all of it works better here, I think.
Now you guys may be wondering, all right, so Night Owl, he didn't see Rorschach get obliterated in the graphic novel. Well, what was he doing? I'm glad you fucking asked what he was doing. This motherfucker was taking another nap. Another sex nap.
Listen, I'm telling you, it's his weakness, okay? He fights crime, and then he's got to bust one and take a nap. That's it. Like, I'm just saying that the man's he's got to reload.
Oh, I mean, goddamn. You know, like, and it wasn't even 12 hours ago you told Rorschach that you guys were friends, and now here you are taking a nap while he's getting obliterated.
Laurie is really into the original version, which is dick and naps.
God damn. Oh. And also, like, what's the protocol when your girl's ex-boyfriend kills your friend?
I'm not really sure. Also, you know, at this point, they haven't broken up. She's still cheating on his ass.
I guess that's true. Huh? I guess if one partner moves to another planet,
it's automatic breach of contract.
Yeah,
that's true. I guess that's true. That's fair.
Oh man!
Like if you leave Earth,
then and you're not an astronaut.
Yeah, you didn't like talk about this beforehand.
Yeah,
spontaneous planet leaving.
Right. Yeah. I think we're done. You know?
Agreed.
Yeah,
that's fair.
There is one last conversation between Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias, and it's about not so much about the morality of it, but did he make the right decision? And I love this conversation in all the versions actually because I mean it's a good question and how do you answer it? So the question that Ozzy presents to Dr. Manhattan is, I did the right thing, didn't I? It all worked out in the end, and the answer that Dr. Manhattan gives is, in the end, nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. And he says, John, what do you mean by that? And then Dr. Manhattan's like, deuces.
Yeah.
I love those haunting last words. You know, like, so in the end, I did the right thing. Well, nothing ever ends.
Right.
And I love that because in Adrian's head, there's always going to linger this sense of doubt, this sense of I'm the world's smartest man. I thought this thing through over and over again. I made all these steps and all these sacrifices. This is the best option. It has to work. But what if it doesn't?
Right.
And so that's just one more thing he has to live with. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing for him to live with, because he has already in his mind thought about all the deaths on his hand. He's thought about all of the lies and deceptions. What he did not think about is the doubt that will linger in his mind. That's the one thing he never calculated.
And they also kind of leave it open-ended, too, as to whether he will be exposed or not.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't know. It's possible. And almost like an epilogue here, we do get to see Lori and Dan. They're living their best life right now in their different identities. They can't be crime vigilantes, and it's their same identities anymore. That shit's still illegal as fuck.
Yeah. As fuck, boy.
As fuck, boy. So they change their identities and they go and visit Sally, Lori's mom. And they have words here, and then they also, of course, talk about the comedian being the father. And this is a really touching moment here. Did you like the confrontation here in this between Lori and Sally about the comedian?
I was kind of lukewarm on it, to be honest. I thought it was a nice touch to have it. I would rather have this than not have it. But I don't know that I felt a particular way about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good as the graphic novel.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if they ever did this in a version of the live action.
They did. It was very brief, but they did.
Yeah. I thought so.
Yeah. Actually, I liked it in the live action though.
Yeah, the actress that played her mom was perfect in the live action.
Yeah, it's funny though, right? That movie still holds up, but you can tell that that's a young woman wearing a lot of prosthetics.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that actress, she was like the same age as the actress that played Lori.
Yeah,
because she played young Silk Spectre during the.
Yep.
Yeah. So
let me ask you. Do you think the purpose of them doing this animated movie? Because you kind of got to ask, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Snyder version, it's not far enough off that we needed a whole new adaptation.
Right.
Like Warner Brothers isn't going to do anything just to jerk off the comic book purists, right? They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I have to wonder if they're putting this out because they intend to do an animated Doomsday Clock.
I had that same thought.
And I'm down like a clown.
Yeah. I'm definitely down for that.
They'll announce that shit the day after we review the graphic novel.
They're going to be like, and go.
Yeah. As soon as their Spotify notification pops up, they're going to be like, oh, put out the press release. Bitches.
That is how that shit tends to go. No, I kid you not, though, man. I had that exact same thought. I wonder if they're going to do a Doomsday Clock animated. I mean, they absolutely can.
That's a lot, though.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be done in one part, I don't think.
No, I mean, just like this, it would have to at least be 2 parts.
Yeah, I think probably 3.
Maybe.
Because I want them to put the button in there.
Oh, man.
It's got to start with that.
Man, I would love if it had the button, but it probably won't. It probably won't.
No.
I know.
That should totally be the intro.
It should be. Yeah.
And they should get the same voice actor from the Flashpoint animated movie.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
That would be great. Would that break any of the? Would they get? Oh fuck! I'm drawing a blank on his name. The comedian.
Oh, I can never remember Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I can never remember this motherfucker's name either.
I mean, How wild would it be to get him to voice the comedian and Flashpoint Batman?
I think they'll stick with this same cast though.
Yeah.
You know, obviously. If they could get Jeffrey Dean Morgan though, by all means.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. No, but an animated Doomsday Clock would be fantastic. Will they do it? I mean, you look at all the material they've mined, and I don't see why they wouldn't. And now with the Watchmen being out, yeah, I absolutely think it's something on the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be a perfect time to do something that colossal.
Yeah.
I think you've got to have this established canon, right? So that we can bring these same characters over.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be very brilliant of them to do it now, or at least soon.
Yeah.
So that there can be some continuity. Now, if, they also could get, like, the fucking Flashpoint Paradox cast back, that would be amazing.
Yes.
But that movie's over 10 years old now, I think.
Yeah, it is. Came out in, I think, 2010.
Yeah.
So, almost 15 years old. That's wild.
Yeah.
Shit, that's wild.
Got to look and see if there's anybody that, like, would be completely off the table.
I don't know, because I was even thinking about Justice League Origin. That came out 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago now. And I think Flashpoint came out before that. Yeah, it had to have. So,
well, I mean, obviously they can't get Kevin Conroy.
oof.
They're definitely not going to get Michael B. Jordan back as Cyborg.
He was Cyborg, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Craziness. Steve Bloom was Lex Luthor. Yeah. Nathan Fillion was Hal Jordan. Ironically.
That is really ironic.
Jennifer Hale was Iris West in that. Let's see.
Who was Superman?
Sam Daly.
Okay.
Not sure I am super familiar with that. Yeah, I mean, other than Kevin Conroy, I don't see anybody like Ron Perlman was Deathstroke. It's a Class A cast.
It is.
I mean, they got Cary Elwes for Aquaman.
Where do I know him from?
He's from Princess Bride.
Oh yeah,
He's the corrupt ass mayor in Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. Also, Saul.
Okay,
He's the doctor in that.
Yeah, that motherfucker looks so different. I see him in Princess Bride, and it's like everything else just looks like a different person.
This is the dude that played Thawne.
Oh,
It's this guy.
he looks like he'd be a psychopath.
Yeah, I don't know that I really recognize him from very much else, but yeah, got to get that guy back.
Yep. Yeah, I love his voice work as Thawne.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
If they can't get him, they could always get the dude that played him in the Flash TV show. He did a great job too.
He did. Yeah. That guy played a few roles in that show.
Yeah. Only the first one was great though.
Yeah.
After that, it was just kind of an excuse of like, how can we keep this dude on the show?
How can we keep him on the show? Yeah, that's true. Eventually, I think they brought back a different actor to play Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
And then they put him on like Legends of Tomorrow, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, that's like going from like being in the main event on Monday Night Raw to being the mid-card match on
Collision.
Goddamn. Man, what else do you have about Watchmen?
I don't know, man. We've been going for a while. I think we've really covered it in depth. I mean, obviously, I think we'd love to see a Doomsday Clock. I mean, are they going to spend the money and the resources to make that kind of thing?
That's a big cast.
Yeah, it's a big cast. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know how complicated the story is. But I think all of that really also too comes down to like James Gunn. Like, are they willing to invest this heavily in an Elseworlds project?
That's true.
So I don't know. I hear Creature Commandos is great. I haven't watched any of it yet.
Yeah, I'm behind on it. I've seen the first 2 episodes, and I really like it so far.
Yeah, I need to get on that.
I need to get on What If.
Yeah, same. I haven't watched any of that either.
Yeah.
I also haven't watched a single second of Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
That's right. Yeah.
But I feel like it's not going to be for me.
I don't know enough about it to know if it's going to be for me or not.
Yeah, it feels like kind of like they just kind of wanted to make like a fun Star Wars show. Mm-hmm. And I get that. I'm glad that they have it. I'm not the audience that's for. And I'm probably going to hate it. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be like, you motherfuckers like cost us the Acolyte, but we're going to watch this.
We're going to watch this.
And
watch it get to season 2.
It probably will. Yeah, if it depends on how it does ratings wise,
One final thing here, and then we'll wrap up. And that is, I was flipping through the Absolute here because most times that I read Watchmen, I just read my standard version, and I just have this version to look pretty on the shelf.
I understand. I have a few of those.
Oh yeah. You understand you understand the process.
Yeah.
At the back of this book, though, they have all of the characters that Alan Moore originally wanted to use at DC, but then couldn't.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting going back and looking to see who he wanted to use before he created these own characters. So instead of Dr. Manhattan, he was going to use Captain Atom.
Yep.
Which, obviously would have been very interesting. Captain Atom nowadays, for whatever reason, always jobs out to people, but he shouldn't.
Right. Right. Yeah. Speaking of Flashpoint earlier, he was really dope in that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then. Yeah.
And then he's, so that would have been really cool. Ozymandias was going to be a character that I'm not really familiar with, named Thunderbolt. I think that this is a character maybe from Charlton Comics that was purchased by DC. I'm not sure though. So yeah, homies, if you guys know a lot about Thunderbolt here,
I wonder if he was like a Black Bolt ripoff. Because there's a lot of characters where Marvel and DC went back and forth, like, oh, they got this character, let's just make this knockoff version of him. Although sometimes the knockoff turns out to be better. Deadpool.
Oh, he's.
Okay, sometimes the knockoff turns out to be more marketable.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I really mean, actually, because I like Deathstroke.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Night Owl is very obvious who they wanted.
Night Owl. Actually, they wanted Blue Beetle.
Oh, really? I thought that for sure that was supposed to have been Batman. Maybe Alan Moore just straight up knew they weren't going to let him have that.
Night Owl was supposed to be Blue Beetle. So obviously, guys, not Jaime Reyes. That character wasn't even created yet.
Yeah.
But the original Blue Beetle, the one who had gadgets and gizmos, obviously similar to Batman.
Was that Tim Cord?
Actually, yeah. This was supposed to be the one that's even before him.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that is.
I forget that guy's name, but he's been dead and gone for so long.
Yeah.
Ted Cord is the one that's most commonly known, other than Jaime. Rorschach was originally going to be the Question.
That tracks.
Yeah, and that does track. And that's like an original picture there of what he was going to look like.
Hey, this is just randomly popped into my head, but you set it off with the Question. Is fucking the Spot from Spider-Verse, is that an original villain?
No, he's in the comic book.
Okay, just not prominent at all.
Just not prominent.
Okay.
Probably because, imagine like you're a comic book writer and you're like, I want to use the Spot. And then you write out a script and then you hand it to the artist and the artist is like, absolutely the fuck not.
Yeah, this is a cow.
Yeah.
It's a cow costume.
Yeah. And I like this. I'm not drawing this shit, bro. This is way too complicated. So he punches here, but then the punch comes out over there. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, he doesn't get a whole lot of screen time or comic book time.
Page time.
This was fascinating for me. The comedian was originally going to be Peacemaker.
That totally tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 100%.
Oh, yeah. It tracks all the way. I just never fucking thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my brain probably made that connection at some point, but not like enough to like be, to go, oh, yeah, that would make complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Is there any more? Yeah, Silk Spectre is going to be another character I'm not familiar with called Nightshade.
Really had to protect the IP there.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all the characters though that he had originally planned on using, but then for reasons he could not, so he just created all new characters. I just thought that was interesting, of course. But yeah, guys, that is our review of The Watchmen Chapter 2.
And ironically, a lot of those characters that he created, instead of using those, are immensely more popular than the characters that he tried to use. Matter of fact, I'd say just about all of them except maybe Comedian.
Yeah, I say except maybe Comedian Peacemaker.
And that's only very recent.
Right.
Yeah, that's only by the power of James Gunn.
Yeah, like if we go back 4 years, no one knows who Peacemaker is.
Yeah. Yeah. If it weren't for James Gunn and John Cena.
Right. Yeah, so that is a good point, though. I mean, yeah, none of them are really nowadays all that super popular. And as a matter of fact, I think all of them belong to other companies besides DC, which is maybe why Alan Moore wanted to use them. But then they got purchased by DC and like, oh well. But yeah, guys, that is our review thoughts on Watchmen Chapter 2. Overall, I still really enjoyed this project. But then again, I am a Watchmen fanboy.
Did we score the first chapter?
I don't think we did.
Okay, well, if we didn't score the first one, we should score this one.
Yeah, good point.
Unless we want to just do that as a whole.
As a whole.
But I don't know how we would do, like, as an adaptation, I think it works really well, but it like just as its own thing, I don't know where I would put it. I don't know. I think it's probably about an 8.8 for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? Like, I think this movie, more or less, as an adaptation, it comes pretty darn close. There are some things that it has to change, but then there's other little things, little oddities that they change that they don't have to, but yet they do anyway. As like its own entity, right? I think that it's the Watchmen,
Right.
So either you like it or you don't, as far as that goes. The animation, it took a while for it to really grow on me. I wasn't a huge fan of it in Chapter 1, but by the time I got to Chapter 2, I was invested in the art style. Ironically, there's really not much of a soundtrack to these movies here.
Yeah.
And I was listening for it, especially for the old Hallelujah scene.
I gotta wonder if somebody will make a supercut and add the Snyder movie stuff in.
Huh. That'd be interesting.
I mean, if I cared, I could do it, but I don't.
Yeah.
That shit'll get ripped down off of YouTube so fucking fast.
Yeah. Well, homies, if you guys have never read the graphic novel, obviously I always recommend it. But if all you have seen now is like the Snyder version and then these two animated movies, I would also recommend you guys go back and rewatch or watch the 2019 television show. I think now having a better understanding of like the Squid Monster and of Rorschach's temperament and personality, I think that would add a lot of context to like another viewing of the 2019 Watchmen TV show that maybe wasn't quite there before.
Agreed. It was really good, really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, with that being said, guys, we've been going on long enough, and unfortunately, I do have to go to work in the morning. So that's going to be all for this one, guys. But we will see you again very soon. Obviously, once again, the Homies Award is coming up, so please be sure to get your votes in. Again,
get those votes in.
Vote, damn it.
I'll say last year there was a significant delta between us, but I think this year, like, unless we just have hugely different opinions on What If Season 3, I think we're pretty much in the same mindset this year of what we want to win.
Yeah.
So, but only you can decide.
Only you can decide. And again, the link will be in the show notes. So if you haven't voted yet, just click it and put your votes in. I am very curious to see what you guys think this year. I'll go ahead and say this: we know that in terms of movies, I mean, hell, the superhero movies we got this year, you know. We got one good one, all right.
Yeah.
But in terms of TV shows, that is where things got interesting this year. So,
yeah, that's true. When it comes to movies this year, if you don't like musicals or sci-fi, you were kind of fucked. Like, you just had one shining star out of all of them, and I'll be honest, like there's quite a few people that wasn't their cup of tea either, because. You know, you kind of have to understand a fuck ton of meta references to really get it, you know? So,
yep.
It was risky. It made a shit ton of money, though. So
That it did. So, homies, do your part to make sure that the Homies Award is another riveting success. And also, keep your eyes open for the Superhero Homies merch store. Get your Superhero Homie swag.
It's coming. We'll have that out sometime in early 2025. So it's coming, and trust me, when it does come out, we are not going to let you miss it.
Absolutely, that's the goddamn truth. Well, homies, that's going to be all for this one. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this review / breakdown / discourse on The Watchmen Chapter 2. That's going to be all for now, though. But until next time, my name is Superhero Homie Q,
and I'm Superhero Homie Caleb.